Hey, my name is Christy Rotman. I am the College Life Skills Coach here at the University of Virginia. I'm so glad that you're thinking about study strategies, especially in light of so much transition from in-person to online class meetings and content. The study strategies that I'm sharing today are proven to be effective regardless of how you're learning the material. In fact, they're probably even more important to keep in mind as you adjust to this new learning environment. Before we dive into specific tips, let's think about learning and the brain. Modern research has demonstrated that there is a physical change in your brain when you learn something new, whether it's a dance move, a vocabulary word, or a math concept. So here's a basic level of what's happening. Neurons are the building blocks of your brain. You have approximately 100 billion of them. When you learn something new, a new connection is made between neurons. You might also call it a new link or a synapse. When you think about something you've learned before and know well, let's say 2 plus 2, signals travel the links already formed between neurons in your brain. Because you know that so well, the neural pathway is quite strong, so strong that you hardly had to think about it. With something new, the neural pathway is weaker, and it's going to take repetition and practice to make that pathway stronger. In this way, we can think of the brain as a muscle that needs training. One of the best ways to train your brain when it comes to learning is force it to recall. So this is my first tip, test your recall. In other words, quiz yourself. Quizzes and exams are one of the best ways for our brain to learn. This doesn't have to be fancy. For instance, after you watch a lecture, without looking at your notes, try to remember what the professor talked about. What were the main points? Or when you're reading, pause after every paragraph or a section and quiz yourself. What did I just read? What was the main point of this section? At the end of the week, try to remember all of what was covered in your lectures, discussions, chats, readings, etc. And if quizzes are part of your course homework, try your best to do them first without cheating and finding the answer. This will help your learning. Since you won't have as much in-person time to spend interacting with content, forcing your brain to recall is really going to help things stick. It's also the best way to train your brain and strengthen your new neural pathways. Teaching like recall is another effective way to learn. As you're reviewing content from a lecture or reading, try teaching it out loud. This can be to a friend on FaceTime, to a family member, or even out loud in an empty room. By trying to explain it clearly, you're forcing yourself to grapple with the material and understand where your own gaps in knowledge might be. My third tip is to make your learning as active as possible. You want to make your work count and you want to make your brain work. The first two strategies, quizzing yourself and teaching the material, are two great ways to actively learn. Other ideas might be drawing pictures, using flashcards, creating a mind map or concept map of all the material. This may mean changing your picture of what studying looks like, since you can no longer get away with passively passing your eyes over a book and calling it good, but the more active, the better. You also aren't going to be able to study for 8 hours in a row and stay active. So tip number 4 is start thinking of studying more like you would train for a sport or a musical instrument. Short, repeated, active sessions over and over again, ideally a little each day. You may have heard of the Pomodoro method, where you set a timer for 25 minutes, then take a break, and then repeat. This allows you a chunk of time to focus and then some time to rest. Here's a slightly different way to think of structuring your time. The important parts of this one are the setting the goal at the beginning, so being really specific about what it is that you're trying to accomplish in your study time. Then spend the bulk of your time actively engaging with whatever you're doing. Take a break, just like that Pomodoro method, then come back and review what it is that you are working on, what stuck and what didn't stick. Do a quiz, review what you've written, and then wrap up your time and say, okay, what worked and what didn't, and what do I have left to finish? Tip number 5 is to use a study cycle to think about structuring your studying throughout the week. The key parts of this cycle are the previewing material before class, which primes your brain to be ready to learn and make sense of the material, and then reviewing it or recalling it after class to begin to form those neural pathways. A good way to think about reviewing might be to make yourself a study guide based on that lecture, that week of content, or whatever, or by trying to condense your notes. So instead of having 5 pages of notes, can you get it down to half a page with some key concepts and terms? You'll also notice that the study part of this cycle refers to that method of breaking up your time that I just talked about. Tip number 6, break it down. This is a great tip to help when you're procrastinating. 2, you want to break big tasks or projects down into small pieces. This helps it to be less intimidating. So ask yourself, what is the first smallest step I could take? Think of something 5 minutes or less. Then keep thinking like that, building tasks up gradually. Eventually you'll gain momentum and you won't need such small tasks, but this approach should really help you actually get started and resist the urge to be overwhelmed and just keep putting it off. Tip number 7 and 8 I've put together. Know the goal and plan a strategy. Here are some questions that will help you plan well for whatever assignment you're working on. First, what is the assignment? And why is the professor assigning it? What's the purpose? What do they want you to get from it? Next, what are the small steps involved in completing the assignment? Which steps will take more time or less time? And how much time do you anticipate each step will take? From there, how many chunks of time overall will you need in order to complete the entire assignment? Finally, when will you do that work? Write or enter that into your planner so you know what you need to do, and give yourself due dates along the way so that it doesn't sneak up on you. Tip number 9, keep the big picture in mind. Whether it's during your class, while you study, or even while you read, you always want to keep the big picture in mind. This will help deepen your learning as your brain tries to make sense of where this material fits in the big picture and how it relates or doesn't relate to the other content. Finally, tip 10, learning takes time. We don't learn just by listening to a lecture. The real work of learning comes when we engage the material, make it our own, quiz ourselves, do practice problems, explain concepts to someone, and apply the concepts to different contexts. All of that takes time and can't be done the night before. Can you imagine if someone running a marathon decided to do all of their running training the 2 days before the event? That would be ridiculous. Neuroscience supports this too, because in order for your brain to form lasting long-term memories, practice needs to happen over time. Cramming is really just stuffing up your short-term memory, and then you forget everything. So, in an ideal world, you would be learning a little every day, just like you would attend practice every day for a sport or have a chunk of time practicing a musical instrument. Learning should be no different. This is especially true for online learning. To recap, here are the tips we've covered today. I hope you find these helpful both for this semester, but also as you continue on with your studies. If you want to talk more about study strategies or anything else related to your academics, I am here as a resource for you. You can email me at christyr@virginia.edu with some days and times that you are available, and we'll schedule a phone, Zoom, or Skype chat to talk more.